Namo. Thanks for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The first mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I vow to cultivate compassion and learn ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to condone any act of killing in the world, in my thinking, or in my way of life. For our Dharma lesson, we're reading Ajahn Munindo's book, Unexpected Freedom. We're in a chapter called Truly Comfortable, with today's section on the body's natural preferences. The Dhamma encourages us to generate the understanding we need in order to go against our preferences out of an interest in seeing through into their conditioned nature. There are bodily preferences and mental preferences, and sometimes there isn't much we can do about changing the body's preferences. They're programmed in the body. I prefer peanut butter and manuka honey on toast for breakfast rather than fermented fish, as people seem to prefer in Thailand. As long as I live, I'm sure that I won't find fish and chilies more agreeable than peanut butter and honey on crunchy toasted brown bread, at any time, for that matter. But this level of preference does not have to be a problem, so long as we know it is simply a bodily preference. It is merely due to our upbringing. What we can change, though, is how we see our preferences. If I had an uninformed, ignorant relationship to my preferences, and an anagarika came into my kuti in the morning to bring me nice toast for breakfast, then I might get lost in my pleasure. I might pay the anagarika compliments, telling him what a fine anagarika he was and how well he was doing. And I would encourage him to bring such toast again the next morning. Then, if the next day he brought me fermented fish for breakfast, I might fly off the handle and say something hurtful. My uninspected preferences being frustrated would lead to my being upset. If I habitually get what I want, I can get caught up in my preferences. That's an ignorant relationship to preferences. In the breakfast situation, where I remain true to my commitment to going beyond attachment to my preferences, practice would stimulate the willingness to simply feel what it feels like to be disappointed when I don't get what I want. Then we see that such willingness to receive pain leads to increased presence and clarity in the context of pleasure. We find we are not getting so lost in pleasure and pain. Encountering our preferences is a way to strengthen cultivation of mindfulness, not merely a strategy of driving out unsuitable desires. If there is a wise and informed relationship to preferences, we will be willing to inhibit our tendency to believe in the way things appear for long enough to be able to see through them. We will see that desire is a movement in the mind. It arises, it appears, it can be felt, it can be received into awareness without judgment, and it will disappear, like a piece of dust floating through space. The space doesn't interfere with the dust, nor is it disturbed by the dust floating through it. A wave rippling across the ocean doesn't change the nature of the ocean. It's natural for an ocean to have waves moving across it. But the wave doesn't define the nature of the ocean. Likewise, a desire passing through the mind does not define the mind. If we have seen this, if we have inhibited our tendency to follow our preferences for long enough to see through the way desire arises and passes away, then we have a much freer perspective on preferences. whether toast and honey or fermented fish turns up for breakfast, whether this is agreeable or disagreeable to one's bodily preferences, the heart will not become elated or depressed. That's the important principle, that we are able to see through our preferences so that the heart remains free. If we understand and accept this principle, then we can be willing to endure whatever is disagreeable to us. We won't always look for life to be agreeable. We won't say, I had a really good meditation just because it felt pleasant. I often hear people asking, how was your meditation? Their friend then replies something like, hopeless, really terrible. If I ask them, what was hopeless about it? They say, well, the mind wouldn't settle. There were no peaceful feelings, no clarity. And I ask, did you know that it wasn't peaceful? Did you know that there wasn't any clarity? Then they say, yes, I knew. So what makes such a meditation terrible? Only that it didn't agree with their preferences. If someone says to me, the meditation was very good, the body alert and energetic, the mind bright and clear, my practice is going well, what they usually mean is that it agreed with their preference. May all beings be well, may all beings be happy, may all beings be at peace. Namo. Thanks so much for joining me today.